All right. Clearly we have to go back a little bit because we learned some very phenomenal principles. We will start from the line that starts with the word Anivroi, and this is 6 lines from the top. Akufam Zai. We're saying that the Ir Makif Dafka, this is the highest of all the worlds and all the Nivroim and all the creatures that persist there. It is an Nikroi principle, it's from Bechinas Ir HaSoiver. Ukmeshikos B'Seven Shal Beinani, which we learned yesterday, Ukmeshikos B'Seven Shal Beinani, Pirkei Mechas, towards the end of that line, Shidiyose Yisborech, that Hashem's knowledge, Masha Yodeya is Oretz, that knowledge, that represents the fact that He knows the earth, Haluzu Hagashmi, this physical earth, Hu Chayus, this is the Chayus, this is the sustenance, the life force. Kol Oive HaKadur Kulei. Oive means thickness. The entire mass of this globe. And it also including its coming forth from AYIN into Yesh. I want to explain a principle that comes with this. Let's say if you are in a class, in a shir, and the teacher is teaching, and you have full confidence and dedication to the teacher. You want to learn what he is teaching. You do not question him, you don't question him, you may question if you don't understand, but don't question the variety of what he's saying and the pertinence of what he's saying. You want to learn what he has to say. And as you're sitting there, you're learning from him. There's an interesting phenomenon taking place at that moment. One is that you seem to understand what he is saying. In other words, you have risen to the point of understanding. You teach us seichel, which is a tremendous rise. On the other hand, this understanding, while the teacher is in front of you and teaching, is an understanding that is completely dependent on the fact that he is the one who is teaching it to you, and that you are relying on his teaching, and you understand it because he understands it, because he wants you to understand this, and you're learning it because he wants you to understand it. This is a very fundamental principle in learning from a teacher, from a Rav, that as we are learning, we are entirely based on his understanding rather than on our own understanding. We do not examine what we're learning and from our own perspective within our world. We step into his world and we learn it there in his world from his teaching. This is the real relationship, this is the real effect of a real teacher or Rebbe. That during time that you're learning from him, you're being transported to a different world. And a completely different reality. That which makes sense in those moments is unique for those moments. The Gemara says an interesting thing. You all know about this. The Gemara says, I don't remember who said it, and Amoyer said, or not Amoyer, Rebbe Yehuda Anosi said, the reason that I excel over my Chaverim is that I was able to see Reb Meir while he was giving the shir. What is seeing Reb Meir while he was giving the shir have to do with understanding what he is teaching? And he says, and I only saw him from his back. Rebbe was one of the youngest Talmidim by Reb Meir. I only saw him from the back. And if I were able to see him from front, then I would be even wiser, even smarter. What's behind this? What is this? We do not begin to fathom the depth of intelligence of neshama that we possess. We literally possess a divine neshama. And if we were not going to doubt what we see, what we understand, because the world contradicts it, then we would be unlimited. We have the challenge that we're in the world, and the world says, well, wait a second, but the world speaks a different language. Make sense of it, how they fit it. Like we say we said all the time. Light, the light of the daylight is just light. There is no energy, this is just light. Comes the world, but it has to be transmitted from the source here. How does it come here? How does it happen? How does it hit? And it becomes a whole system, and it completely loses that which is being presented to that which you are accepting. Completely different world. That which you are accepting, you're retranslating at your level. Not at the level that is being presented at all. This is how we lose, we throw by the wayside the main inspiration that is being given to us. Can I steal this from you? It's very important to understand this principle. And this principle says, thank you, consists not only understanding, but actually accepting dedication. I understand because Rabbi understands, because Rabbi Meir understands. But you don't have Rabbi Meir seichel? I do. By dedication, I acquire his insight. At least from my vantage, I can see. I see what he sees, even though I don't understand it the same way as he does, the same depth and the same clarity. But I can see what he's talking about. Follow this. The Torah says, "Breishis bara Elokim et hashamayim v'ha'aretz." The beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, when we, with our flesh eyes, look at the Shemayim v'ha'aretz, we don't see God. We don't see the Creator. We see that there's a tangible presence. We don't see it being created. but we're being taught and told, and we're accepting that teaching. That actually what we're looking at is something that God created and creates. It does not have its own presence. It is not there because you're touching it. It's not there for you because you're touching it. It is there for me because God tells me it's there. The Rebbe once said in a Sikha, the Rebbe says, ask a child, how do you know there is a world? So the Rebbe says, oh, the child says, of course, it says in the Chumash, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'ha'aretz. I learned in the Chumash that God created Shemayim v'ha'aretz, so therefore there has to be a Shemayim v'ha'aretz. This is not an out of reality presentation. This is the pure reality, the pure perception that a child recognizes. Just as a child does not question his tati, his mommy, or his teacher. There's a famous in one of the children's books that makers give out. So there is a situation. A child is learning aleph beis from his teacher. Aleph beis. So the Rebbe person, this is an aleph. So the Torah says, and how do you know that it's an aleph? He goes on a little bit. In other words, this is totally unnatural for a child to ask, how do you know? The Rebbe knows everything. And I want to know what the Rebbe knows. I don't want to know anything else. I don't want any other base for my knowledge, but that my Rebbe knows it. I don't need to test him against a million people outside. No. If he says so, this is good enough for me. This is how a child learns. And this is how we learn from our Rebbe. Let's take note from our Rebbe. Everybody knows our Rebbe was, to say a genius is a total understatement. He knew Kol HaTorah Kula literally, with all the ramifications. The Rebbe was constantly quoting the Frierdiker Rebbe. I remember clearly the one time the Rebbe was saying something, I don't know what it was, and the Rebbe says, from my father-in-law I didn't hear it, but I think this is the way it is. If I heard it from my father-in-law, that would solidify it beyond any question. But I didn't hear it from father-in-law. So I know it, but there's a but to it. I mention all the time, the Gemara says, Omar Rava, Omar Rav Nachman. I'm sure he's very familiar with this quote. Omar Rava, Omar Rav Nachman. Omar Rav Nachman. Rava was an Amir in his own right. Rava and Abaya, the two principal Amiroyim with Gemara. Everybody knows Abaya is the Rabbi of the Rava. The whole Gemara is based on Abaya and Rava. And yet Rava is constantly alluding to his teacher, Rav Nachman. I don't understand. Didn't you re-examine it? Didn't you adjust it? And now you know it on your own? Does it make sense to you? He says, yes, it makes sense to me. You know what makes sense to me? Rav Nachman said this. So what I want you to understand, we're trying to understand very, very, you learned it, well, you tasted it, very subtle and elusive concepts. Lifnei atim tzum, nachar atim, oirein soiv, yesh, and pnimis, and concepts that are completely, the concept itself elude us. Certainly the reality of it. On what basis have we learned this? On the basis of our own experience. We can't even begin to experiment this. We can't even put it in perspective. Excuse me, in the scientific world, there is a certain level, certain approach that if you have a theory, then you design a method of testing the theory. What would be the thing that would prove this theory? When you learn from the Rebbe, you're not looking for a test case to substantiate what you're learning. The primary test case is that the Rebbe says it. And I want to know what the Rebbe says. This is the source and the basis of my knowledge. The fact that the Rebbe says it, the Rebbe says to me, listen, my dear, this is what you should know. Yes, it was. That's what I need to know.
This is the source and the basis of my knowledge.
I'm sorry?
That somebody else could be the source and basis of your knowledge sounds like you'd be a sort of blind follower. I mean, there's obviously got to be some other inner source to your knowledge.
I wish I had more time, but I have to answer this question because this is a primary importance. Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Moshe is the one who brought the Torah down, and he came down and he says, Hashem told me this. Does that mean that you are now a blind follower? You didn't hear it from Hashem. You heard it from Moshe. Hashem, if I may put it this way, so we are sensitive, so to speak, to these nuances, to these doubts that the human being can conquer. And he said, I want to show them that they should know, they should clearly know, see that I am speaking to you, and that what you transmit is my saying. That's in the Torah. Hashem said, I'm going to come to you, Babylon, and the people will hear how as I'm speaking to you.
And the people said, I want you to speak to us.
No, the people should hear how I'm speaking to you. And that's what they will believe in you forever. Now, please understand, this scenario, this setup, was not meant to last just for Moshe. Begam B'cho means for you and your Talmidim and your descendants and all generations. This is what established this Rebbe teacher-Talmid relationship. When a Rebbe tells you something, when a Rebbe says something, it is not his own concoction. You're taking that which he learned from the Meibesh.
Right, and the point there seems to be that Hem Yishmu, that the people will hear, and the Yaminu Bach, they'll follow in, as if to say, by listening closely enough, you can hear Hashem talking to our Rebbe. And also,
No. That's still clear doubt. No, it's not. The Rebbe has established this
principle that
this principle.
Right.
So therefore, when the Gemara says when you sit in Rabbi, he is to be completely lost in the Rebbe's teaching.
Fine, but there does seem to be so let's call it an inner correlation, namely where the student absorbs, hears what's being said and says, "Oh, of course."
No, the inner correlation is that the student knows that his Rebbe is telling him what his Rebbe learned from his Rebbe, and his Rebbe learned from his Rebbe, all the way up to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu to Mebush.
There's a case where somebody says something, Lo Manda Amar.
What?
Why he says something and does not mention the name of the one who says it. Why would he do such a thing? It says, because now it's become him.
Yeah.
So there is seemingly that process where what he heard now becomes who he is.
Yeah, but how did he become him? Because he absorbed it deeply. Because as I said, we cannot fathom the depth of intelligence and neshama that we have, that we were given. We are stupid. We think we understand like a cloth understands. We understand because we have a divine neshama. We don't trust this neshama. It's not. I can't tangibly identify what the neshama is telling me. And they go in the street and they say, "Hey, you're imagining," so I lose it. So who am I going to trust? With which part of myself will I learn? When I live with my goof or with my neshama?
But it's always said that after learning, we have to find it in ourselves.
In ourselves does not mean we have to question it from our own perspective. It means we have to imbue it in ourselves and raise ourselves to that level of understanding. To find in ourselves that capacity, that neshama element that enables us to understand this. It does not mean to bring it back into our mundane world and from there make sense of it. Doesn't mean that at all. Like I said the other day, recently we spoke about, right? Light is a divine creation. The whole idea of light, of sight, is chokhmah, is a super worldly phenomenon. And the world says, hey, it doesn't make any sense. There's no such thing in the world as sight. Therefore, it has to be some kind of energy source that is traveling and hitting the object and hitting the eye. That makes more sense. And therefore, you lose the entire gift of sight. For the sake of remaining comfortable in your own skin, in your own worldly skin. Instead of saying, no, you know something? I do relate and I am really observing and really experiencing and living and recognizing something which is not worldly. It requires a lot of inner work, inner refinement, so that it be good enough for me to know that this is a divine truth, and that's good enough for me.
AYIN